trapped and desperate, we summoned what they feared most, a human. The sky over Oris was not like any normal sky. It burned with pale green light from the dying star above, casting long shadows across the city. The silver towers of the outpost reflected the weak light, but their shine could not hide the fear in the hearts of those who lived there. Ships hung in orbit like dark birds waiting to strike. The Velkari, a fierce alien race known for their cruelty, had surrounded the planet for 6 cycles, cutting off all supplies and communications. Every attempt to call for help had failed. The people of Oris felt trapped, as if the universe itself had turned against them. Inside the main council hall, tension was thick enough to touch. 5 alien species had gathered there, representatives of the local alliance, and none of them had ever faced an enemy like the Velkari. They argued in quick, sharp voices, their words overlapping, each trying to blame the other. Fear made them reckless. Lyra Venn, the Orisian ambassador, stood at the center of the room. She was tall and lean, with blue-gray skin that shimmered faintly in the council lights. Her eyes darted from one speaker to another. Commander Kel Torin, her military advisor, stood behind her, silent but alert. His dark green armor reflected the glow of the dying star, and the heavy energy rifle at his side reminded everyone that he was ready for any attack. Yet even Kael could not hide his concern. They were running out of options. Ethan Cole, a human xenophysicist, watched quietly from the side. Humans were rare in this sector of space. Most species knew them only as observers, not fighters. But humans were different. They had a strange reputation for being unpredictable, for taking risks others would never dare. Some feared them, some admired them, but most did not understand them at all. Ethan had been on Oris for over a year, studying alien biology and culture. Now he wished more than ever that his studies had stayed academic. "We have tried everything," said Threx, a large, 4-armed alien from the Morvani species. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Our weapons do not harm them enough. Our shields cannot hold. Every move we make is predicted and countered." He slammed one massive hand on the table, causing the smaller species representatives to flinch. "We will all die if we do not act quickly." A small, winged creature named Ixia chirped nervously from her perch above the table. "We cannot surrender. The Velkari do not negotiate. If we offer terms, they will take everything. Our children, our cities, our lives." Her tiny voice shook, but the fear in it made everyone uneasy. She fluttered down to the table, her claws clicking on the metal surface. "We must find another way." Lyra swallowed hard. She had thought about surrender. She had dreamed about it during the long nights when the Velkari ships hung above like dark moons, but even the thought of surrender felt impossible. The Velkari would destroy everything. And yet, there was no sign of reinforcements. No hope came from the surrounding systems. They were alone. Cowell placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "There is one option left," he said quietly. "But it is dangerous, terribly dangerous." "What do you mean? We've tried every weapon, every tactic." "What else can we do?" Kale's eyes were hard. "There is an old contingency. A pact with Earth. It was meant for times like this, when the Velkari or any other enemy threatens total annihilation. But summoning humans, it is a last resort. You do not ask for their help lightly."
"Once they arrive, everything changes. Everything."
"Huh." Lyra felt a chill. Humans were unpredictable. They were known to act with power and precision, but they were also feared. Stories of human strategy and courage were whispered across the galaxy. Most species avoided them. If humans were summoned, there was no turning back. It could save them, or it could make things far worse. Dr. Ethan Cole stepped forward. His human form was small compared to the massive aliens around him, but there was a quiet confidence in his eyes. "I can guide you," he said. "I know how to send the signal. Humans respond only when it is truly necessary. If you are desperate, they will come, but you must be ready. They do not fight as we fight. They do not play by our rules." Lyra looked at him, weighing the risk. Could she trust a human? Could she trust anyone at this moment? Yet, as she looked around the hall, she saw despair written on every face. Children hid under tables, workers scurried in fear, soldiers fidgeted with weapons that could not save them. They had no choice. They were trapped. "Do it," she said finally. Her voice was steady, though her hands shook. "Send the call." Ethan nodded and moved to the control panel. His fingers flew over the holographic keys, each motion precise. A soft hum filled the room as the ancient signal amplifier powered up. This was not a normal communication. It would reach across light years, beyond the reach of any Velkari jamming. It was a human-level transmission, a special code only Earth could recognize. Kale and Lyra watched as Ethan completed the sequence. The room was silent except for the low hum of the machines. Outside, the stars twinkled coldly, indifferent to their fear. For a moment, it felt as if the universe itself held its breath. The signal shot into space, moving faster than anything in the known galaxy. It carried with it the desperation of a trapped planet, the terror of those who had no other hope, and the promise that humans were needed. Then, it was gone, leaving only silence behind. The council waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Nothing happened. The Velkari ships still loomed above, their weapons charged, their drones scanning for signs of weakness. Every second felt like a year. Whispers began to circulate. Had they made a mistake? Had they summoned something they could not control? Frex growled, pacing the room. "They will not come."
Earth is far. Too far.
"We are finished." Ixio's wings twitched nervously.
Maybe it is better if they do not come. Humans are dangerous. They do not care for our rules. If they arrive, who knows what will happen? Kale stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "If they do not come, we are dead. If they do, we may still survive. We have no choice. We must hope for the humans." Night fell over Oris, though the green light of the dying star never fully disappeared. Outside the walls, Velkari ships shifted into new positions, testing the outpost's defenses. Soldiers tightened their grips on weapons that had failed them too many times. Families huddled in fear. The council remained in the hall, staring at the dark skies, knowing that the next day could bring salvation or destruction. Ethan sat quietly, reviewing the sequence on the panel. He understood the fear of the council better than anyone. Humans were powerful, but they were unpredictable. They fought with a strange logic, combining strategy, innovation, and sheer audacity. The Velkari had never faced such opponents. The council could not imagine the human mind, and that made the coming hours full of both hope and terror. Hours later, a distant hum vibrated through space. The sensors on Orisian ships picked up a faint anomaly. It was unlike any known signature. Energy patterns shimmered in impossible ways. bending light, warping space. The council members crowded around their consoles, eyes wide. No Valkyrie technology could create such readings.
It's them, Ethan whispered.
The humans. They have received the signal.
Lyra's heart raced. How can you be sure?
Ethan pointed to the data. Nothing else behaves like this. Humans are. Their ships move faster than our fastest calculations. They arrive where they want, not where physics tells them. This is human. The council fell silent, each member imagining what was coming. Outside, the first signs appeared. A shadow in the distance, larger than any ship in the Valkyrie fleet. It moved with a purpose, smooth and unthreatened. The Valkyrie drones swerved, but did not engage. Whatever approached, they recognized it as a force beyond their understanding. Kale gripped his rifle tightly, eyes fixed on the viewport. "Prepare for anything," he said. "This is not a normal rescue. Humans do not play by our rules." Ixia's tiny voice trembled. What if they destroy everything in the process?" Lyra shook her head. "No, they are coming because we are desperate. That is what humans understand. They will fight, but they will fight for a cause. For survival." Hours passed. The anomaly grew larger until it resolved into a shape the council could finally comprehend. A single massive human vessel, unlike any ship in the galaxy. It was black, angular, and bristling with structures that no Orician scientist could identify. Its presence alone caused the Valkyrie ships to hesitate. The story of humans was not just about firepower. It was about the terror they inspired, the unpredictability they carried, and the intelligence they wielded with a quiet, unstoppable force. Lyra felt a strange sense of relief, though fear still clung to her. The humans had arrived. What they would do, she could not guess. But one thing was certain: the outpost's fate was no longer entirely in the hands of the Valkyrie. There was hope. Dangerous, unpredictable hope, but hope nonetheless. And in the quiet moments before the first move was made, the council finally realized the truth. Humans were not merely reinforcements. They were something far greater. They were a force of nature, and the Valkyrie, who had conquered countless systems, were about to face their most feared enemy. The shadow in space grew closer. The Council of Aris watched from the viewport, barely able to breathe. The human ship was enormous, but it moved silently, without warning or fanfare. It was unlike any vessel the galaxy had ever seen. Its dark hull seemed to absorb the green light from the dying star, and strange structures jutted out from its sides, humming with power. On the bridge of the human ship, Admiral Logan Pierce stood with his back straight, eyes scanning the endless field of stars. The bridge was clean and efficient. Screens glowed softly with information, showing the positions of the Valkyrie fleet, the Orician outpost, and the surrounding space. No one spoke unless necessary. The humans moved with calm purpose, like a machine built to act precisely when the moment demanded it. Commander Rachel Moore tapped on the main console. "Admiral, the Valkyrie ships are reacting. They are scanning us, but their sensors are failing. They are confused." Admiral Pierce nodded. "Keep them confused."
We do not want unnecessary damage. The objective is to protect the outpost, not destroy the system.
"Prepare drones for deployment, but wait for my order." Lieutenant Jake Ramirez, young but sharp, leaned over another console. "Admiral, Valkyrie drones are approaching the outer perimeter. Their targeting arrays are trying to lock onto us. Let them try. Pierce replied calmly. It will not work. Human systems are unpredictable to them. They have never faced technology like ours. Meanwhile, at the Orician outpost, the council watched in awe and fear. The humans had arrived, but no one knew what they would do. The Valkyrie ship still hovered above, bristling with weapons and ready to attack at the first sign of weakness. Children and workers hid in the lower levels. Soldiers gripped their weapons, uncertain if they were meant to fight or flee. Then, without warning, the human ship split the darkness of space. Small craft launched from hidden bays, moving faster than any Valkyrie sensors could track. The drones were black, sleek, and silent. They darted between the Valkyrie ships like shadows, scanning systems, analyzing defenses, and disabling weapons with shocking speed. Threx, the four-armed Morvani ambassador, staggered back from the console. What? What are they doing? Our weapons are failing. They are taking control. Ixia, the tiny winged alien, flapped her wings furiously. They are humans. But they are doing it differently. They are not destroying, only stopping them. Kale gripped his rifle tighter.
Yes, that is what humans do.
They strike where it matters, but they do not waste power. They control the battlefield with intelligence, not chaos. Outside, the Valkyrie flagship roared as it attempted to target the human ship. Energy beams shot toward the massive vessel, but they bent and twisted, failing to connect. The human drones intercepted several of the shots, redirecting the energy back toward the Valkyrie fleet. Sparks of blue light danced across enemy shields, disabling weapons without destruction. Admiral Pierce watched quietly. Phase 1 is working. Keep their attention focused on the decoys. We will move when they least expect it. On the bridge, Captain Daniel Brooks, in command of a second human vessel, Liberty Dawn, whispered to his crew. Remember, we do not need to destroy. Disable and contain. Civilian lives matter. Enemy lives can be taken only if necessary. Understand? Yes, sir, chorused the crew, each voice calm but ready. The Valkyrie fleet was beginning to panic. Their communications faltered and coordination fell apart. Ships that had moved like one organism now collided with one another. The Council of Oris watched with disbelief. They had seen fleets before, but never a force that could dismantle the enemy without firing a single destructive missile directly. Threx muttered under his breath, They not like us. Think differently. Lyraven's voice trembled, though she tried to remain composed. We summoned them because we were desperate. But even now, I did not know. I could not imagine.
Humans are terrifying. Inside the human ship, Ethan Cole stood beside Admiral Pierce.
They are starting to realize their weapons are useless against humans, he said. This is the first step. The Valkyrie fear humans because they fight with understanding, not just firepower. They anticipate, they adapt, they strike at the right moment. Pierce nodded, and that is why they survive. Then the Valkyrie flagship tried a bold move, firing a concentrated wave of energy at the outpost. Alarms blared across the council hall. Soldiers froze, expecting disaster. The energy storm approached the planet's surface. Pierce's hand moved over the console. Deploy gravitic field. From the human ship, a faint blue pulse expanded into space, enveloping the Valkyrie flagship. The energy wave bent around the vessel, crushing its engines and immobilizing it without harming a single living being on board. crew members screamed in confusion as the ship drifted powerless. The council and soldiers at Oris could only stare. By their logic, we could have been destroyed, Ixia whispered. And yet, nothing. Kael's grip loosened slightly. Humans understand what the Valkyrie do not. They can destroy, but they choose not to. That is why they are feared more than weapons. The Valkyrie tried again. A swarm of smaller attack ships moving toward the outpost. Human drones intercepted them in seconds, dismantling targeting systems, disabling engines, and neutralizing threats without harm. The Valkyrie fleet faltered further. Their numbers meant nothing against the humans' control of space. Lyra then turned to Ethan. How? How can humans do this? Our technology is advanced. Our fleets are strong. How can they dominate without full force? Humans fight differently. They combine strategy, risk-taking, and precision. They understand desperation better than any species I have studied. That is why they arrive when all hope is lost and change everything. Meanwhile, aboard Liberty Dawn, Captain Daniel Brooks coordinated a small strike team to move closer to the immobilized Valkyrie ships. Pilots like Chris Bennett and Olivia Grant maneuvered with skill, disabling weapons and systems without loss of life. Human Marines, led by Major Caleb Ross, prepared to board the enemy vessels. They were disciplined, careful, and deadly only when necessary. Threx growled in frustration. Our fleet is falling apart. Their weapons cannot touch us, yet we cannot fight back. This... Ixia flapped nervously. They are showing mercy. But what if they do not stop? What if humans decide to punish the Valkyrie? Lyra's hand shook as she adjusted her robes. We cannot control humans.
We only ask for help. That is all we can do.
The rest is in their hands. The Council watched as humans moved through space with precision that no alien technology could match. Ships that had once seemed invincible were now drifting without power, trapped by invisible forces. Humans had not fired a single destructive beam at the outpost. They had not harmed civilians. They had only stopped the enemy and protected the innocent. Kale turned to Lyra. That is why humans are feared, not because they destroy, but because they can choose not to. They can end wars before they start, but they can also destroy if forced. That is power unlike anything the Valkyrie have faced. Outside the viewport, the Valkyrie flagship attempted to regroup. Its commander barked orders, but confusion ruled. Sensors failed, engines faltered, and even the smaller ships could not coordinate. Panic spread across the fleet. The humans were not attacking blindly. They were controlling the battlefield entirely. Admiral Pierce stood tall, hands behind his back. Phase 2 begins, he said quietly. Prepare boarding teams and deploy containment drones. On the council hall, Lyra felt a strange mixture of awe and fear. The humans had arrived when they were at their most desperate. Now they were doing what no one else could do, holding back the enemy with calm, deliberate power. The outpost, once on the brink of destruction, now had hope. And the Valkyrie, who had never known defeat, were facing a force beyond their understanding. Humans were not just reinforcements. They were something else, something terrifying, something that could change the course of war with a single decision. The shadow of the human ships loomed larger now, their presence felt in every sensor reading. The Valkyrie began to retreat, not entirely, but cautiously. Every move was measured, every action second-guessed. They were beginning to understand the fear that had spread across the galaxy for centuries. Humans fought with intelligence, not just power. Ethan stood quietly, watching the patterns unfold on the consoles. They will not stop until the Velkari are contained, he said. And once they are, the Velkari will understand why humans are feared more than any weapon or fleet. Lyra turned to Kale, whispering, "And now we may live because of them, but at what cost?" Kael did not answer. He only watched the humans, waiting for the next move, knowing that the people of Oris had been given a chance few species ever received: survival through the power of something they could never control. The council and the soldiers remained silent. Outside, the humans continued their slow, precise, unstoppable advance. The Velkari had met their match, and that match was not just strength. It was strategy, intelligence, and the will to survive at any cost. And so the first day of human intervention ended, with the Velkari fleet weakened, their confidence shattered, and the outpost still standing. For the first time in 6 cycles, hope existed on Oris. It was terrifying, it was strange, and it was entirely human. The Velkari fleet had never experienced defeat like this. Their once coordinated formations were scattered, engines crippled, and weapons offline. The humans had arrived as a single vessel and now controlled the battlefield with ease. But the Velkari were stubborn. They would not surrender so quickly. Reinforcements were already on their way from neighboring systems, their numbers growing with every jump. Inside the council hall on Oris, the alien representatives gathered around the main viewport, watching the humans move with calm precision. Lyra Ven's blue-gray hands clutched the railing as she saw the human ships deploying drones, boarding pods, and containment fields. Soldiers looked on in awe. Even Threx, the massive four-armed Morvani, shook his head in disbelief. "We may have summoned them," he muttered, "but I do not understand how they do this. How can they control so many ships and yet not destroy?" Ethan Cole, standing at the edge of the room, nodded. "Humans understand how to fight without chaos. They target what matters and protect what needs protection. Their enemies can't predict them because humans do not think like us. Or like the Velkari." Kale Torin tightened his grip on his rifle. "Band, ha-baba baba. We are seeing why the Velkari fear humans. They are more than weapons. They are strategy, intelligence, and patience, all combined." Outside, the Velkari regrouped as best they could. The smaller vessels attempted to attack the human drones, but the drones moved too fast, striking with precision. Engines stalled, targeting arrays failed, and some ships drifted helplessly. It was not a slaughter, it was control. The humans were containing the Velkari, disabling their ability to strike without unnecessary deaths. Admiral Logan Pierce observed the patterns on the console. "We need to force the next stage," he said. "Prepare boarding teams and containment pods. Phase 2 begins now." On Liberty Dawn, Captain Daniel Brooks addressed his team of Marines. "We will board the disabled ships. No unnecessary casualties. Secure the crew, disable the systems, and prevent them from escaping. Understand?"
Yes, sir, the team responded in unison.
Major Caleb Ross led the Marines with quiet authority. Each movement was planned, each step precise. Meanwhile, back on the Orisian outpost, alarms blared as the Velkari tried a desperate strike. A wave of plasma energy surged toward the lower levels of the city. Workers and families screamed as they ran for shelter. Soldiers fired blindly at the approaching energy, hoping to stop it. Before the plasma could reach the city, a quiet hum filled the skies. The human drones had intercepted the wave, redirecting it harmlessly into space. The council watched in disbelief. Not a single civilian was harmed. They are protecting us, whispered Ixia. Her wings trembled. And Trax growled low in his throat. I have never feared a species before. Humans? They are not just strong. They are something else. On the bridge of the Atlas, Admiral Pierce gave another order. Boarding teams deploy. Target disabled Velkari vessels first. Prepare containment fields for reinforcements. From hidden bays, human pods launched silently. Each pod carried Marines trained for precision strikes. Chris Bennett and Olivia Grant piloted the pods, weaving through debris and enemy ships. The Velkari fired blindly, but their shots could not match the speed and unpredictability of the humans. Inside one Velkari ship, panic spread among the crew. Systems failed, engines stalled, and alarms blared. Commander Vrek, a towering Velkari with deep crimson skin, bellowed orders. Stop them. Fire on the drones. Target the humans. Do not let them board us. But it was too late. Human boarding pods breached the hull silently. Major Caleb Ross and his team entered, moving quickly and efficiently. Every Velkari soldier they encountered was restrained or incapacitated with minimal force. They secured the control room, shut down the weapons systems, and activated containment protocols to prevent the ship from escaping. Back on the council hall, Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. They are taking control. And yet they are? Merciful? Ethan Cole nodded. That is the way humans operate. They do not destroy unless necessary. They disable, contain, and control. The Velkari will understand fear like they have never known it. Outside, the Velkari fleet was starting to fracture. Smaller vessels attempted to flee, but human drones intercepted them. Each ship was disabled without mass destruction. The humans were teaching the Velkari a lesson. Power alone did not win battles. Intelligence, strategy, and discipline did. Admiral Pierce stood on the bridge observing the system through the main viewport. The enemy will attempt to regroup, he said. They will try another strike. Be ready to contain them again. Do not underestimate their desperation. On Liberty Dawn, Captain Brooks briefed the Marines for the next operation. The larger ships will try to escape or retaliate. We need to disable engines, shut down weapons, and prevent them from causing civilian harm. The humans fight smart. We fight smart. Remember that. Minutes passed as the human boarding teams moved from ship to ship, each mission coordinated with flawless precision. The Velkari were beginning to realize that no matter how many ships they brought, humans could contain them. They could not predict the humans' movements. Their numbers meant nothing. Inside one of the captured ships, Commander Vrek was held by restraints, unable to comprehend the situation. This is impossible, he roared. How can humans control everything without destroying? Major Ross, standing nearby, replied calmly, We do not destroy unless necessary. You have the chance to surrender and save your people. The Velkari commander growled but remained silent. He could not fight what he did not understand. The humans had turned fear into strategy. Back at the Orician outpost, the council watched in tense silence. The humans had not destroyed a single building. They had not harmed civilians, and yet they had crippled the Velkari fleet, captured ships, and secured control over the system. Hope began to grow among the people. Kale Torin turned to Lyra. This is why they are feared. They can destroy entire fleets. They can end wars in hours. But they choose not to. That choice, that is what terrifies the Valkyrie more than any weapon. Outside, the Valkyrie flagship attempted one final maneuver. It gathered remaining energy for a concentrated strike against the outpost, but human drones intercepted the attack. Gravitic fields bent the energy harmlessly away, and boarding teams moved into position. The flagship, once a symbol of Valkyrie power, drifted helplessly, its crew restrained and systems disabled.
Lyra could hardly speak. They have done it.
The fleet, the ships, all under control, and no one is dead. Ethan Cole looked at her. Humans fight differently. They understand desperation. They see the value in life, even of their enemies. That is why they survive, and that is why they are feared. The Valkyrie fleet, now immobilized, began to signal surrender. Their commander, once proud and arrogant, now spoke with caution. We submit, humans.
We yield. Admiral Pierce observed the surrender with calm authority. Contain the crew and secure the ships.
No harm unless provoked. Ensure civilians are safe. The mission is not vengeance. It is protection. Captain Brooks and his Marines moved through the system, securing the remaining Valkyrie vessels. Each boarding was efficient, precise, and merciful. The humans had proven a lesson that no one would forget. Power without control is nothing. Strategy without intelligence is dangerous. And mercy can be the deadliest weapon of all. Inside the council hall, the aliens began to grasp the meaning of what had happened. They had called for humans in their desperation. They had feared what would come. And yet, the humans had arrived, controlled the battle, saved lives, and left the Valkyrie in shock. Ixia whispered, We summoned what we feared most, and they saved us. Threx growled softly, Yes, but at the same time they are not ours. We cannot control them. That is frightening in itself. Lyra then nodded. We cannot control them.
We only asked for help. That is all we could do.
The rest is theirs. As the humans secured the final ships, the Council understood that Oris had been given a gift. A dangerous, unpredictable, and terrifying gift. Humans had arrived when all hope seemed lost, and in their unique way, they had changed everything. Admiral Pierce gave his final orders. Evacuate civilians if needed, but do so carefully. Prepare to depart once the system is secure. No unnecessary destruction. The humans' presence had taught a lesson to the Valkyrie, to the Council, and to every witness. Strength alone is not enough. Wisdom, precision, and mercy are as powerful as the strongest weapons. The day ended with the Valkyrie fleet contained, the outposts safe, and the humans ready to leave. But everyone knew that once humans arrived, the galaxy would never be the same. Their reputation as unpredictable, intelligent, and merciful fighters was now confirmed. And the fear they inspired was not just in their enemies, it was in all who witnessed their power. Lyra turned to Kale, whispering, We called them, and now we live. But what happens if they decide not to leave? He only looked at the stars, knowing the humans' choice was their own. And in that choice lay both salvation and danger. For the first time in 6 cycles, the people of Oris could breathe. The Valkyrie were contained. The humans had acted, and the universe had witnessed a force unlike any other, a force born of desperation, intelligence, and the will to survive. The Council understood one truth. Humans were not just warriors. They were a force of nature, capable of ending conflicts, saving lives, and inspiring fear in those who thought they were invincible. And that fear was real, undeniable, and unforgettable. The Valkyrie fleet, once a storm of power, now floated helplessly in orbit. Their ships were disabled, engines cold, and weapons offline. The surviving Valkyrie commanders had gathered aboard a single immobilized vessel, their pride shattered. They were still fierce, still stubborn, but the humans had shown them a power they could not match, control they could not break, and mercy they had never known. On the Orician outpost, the Council watched as the humans moved through the fleet with quiet efficiency. Boarding teams secured the remaining vessels, ensuring no enemy could escape, and that civilians on the outpost remained safe. Every action was precise. Every decision was measured. Lyra Ven stood with her hands on the railing of the council hall. The fear and tension she had carried for cycles began to lift, replaced by cautious hope. Kael Torrens stood beside her, still tense, but even he allowed himself a small sense of relief. Ethan Cole remained near the control panel, watching the humans with admiration and worry. "They do not need to destroy," he said quietly to Lyra. "They only need to act, and when they act, everything changes." Outside, Admiral Logan Pierce stood on the bridge of the Atlas, observing the Valkyrie. His face was calm, unreadable, but his mind was calculating every move. "Containment is complete," he said to Commander Rachel Moore. "Check for any remaining threats. Prepare for diplomatic communication if necessary. The system must remain stable before we leave." The Council watched as human Marines, led by Major Caleb Ross, moved carefully through the Valkyrie vessels. Every Valkyrie crew member was restrained but unharmed unless they resisted. Systems were shut down, weapons disabled, and engines powered off. The humans acted as teachers and wardens, not executioners. Ixia, the small winged alien, whispered to Threx, They could have destroyed everything. They could have burned the Valkyrie fleet to ashes. And yet they did not." Threx growled softly, his forearms folded. That is power beyond understanding. Not just strength, not just weapons. Humans, they are something else. Back on Liberty Dawn, Captain Daniel Brooks addressed the Marines. "Final sweep. Make sure all vessels are secure, civilians safe. The Valkyrie are contained, not destroyed. That is the difference. That is what humans do." Chris Bennett and Olivia Grant moved through the last of the disabled Valkyrie ships. Crew members, restrained and bewildered, looked up at the humans. Some tried to resist, but the humans were fast, precise, and patient. No one was unnecessarily harmed. On the Atlas, Admiral Pierce prepared to communicate with the Valkyrie commanders. The alien fleet had not surrendered out of kindness. They surrendered out of necessity. They understood the human strength, strategy, and intelligence. A Valkyrie message blinked on the console. The translation was crude but clear. We submit. We understand. Humans are feared. Pierce read the message carefully, then replied calmly, "Your surrender is accepted. You will leave the system immediately. No retaliation will occur. Now, any attempt to break the pact will be met with containment and force. Protect your people and leave in peace." The Valkyrie commander, crimson-skinned and proud, hesitated before responding. His voice was strained, trembling. "We comply."
Humans, we have never faced anything like you.
We understand fear.
Ethan Cole looked at Lyra. "You see? Fear is not destruction. Fear is understanding. Calm. They understand it now? Lyra nodded slowly, her mind absorbing the magnitude of what had happened. The humans had arrived at the brink of despair, and now they had ended the battle without bloodshed beyond what was necessary. The outpost was safe, civilians unharmed, a Valkyrie fleet neutralized. Kale spoke quietly. They could have killed every Valkyrie ship in the system. They chose not to. That is why they are feared. That is why no one can control humans. That is why they survive where others fail. Outside, the remaining Valkyrie ships began to retreat. Engines powered on under the humans' careful monitoring. The fleet left without striking a single civilian target. The lesson had been taught. Their power was meaningless against humans who understood strategy, intelligence, and mercy. On the council floor, Lyra addressed the assembly. "We called them in desperation," she said. "We feared what would come. And yet, humans have saved us. They have shown strength, intelligence, and mercy. They have taught us that power is not only in weapons or fleets, but in understanding when and how to use it." Ixia fluttered, her wings trembling with relief. They are not like any species I have ever known. They fight differently. They think differently. And they are terrifying. Threx's forearms flexed as he nodded. Yes, they are terrifying, but they are our allies now. If we are wise, we will remember that. Back aboard the Atlas, Admiral Pierce prepared for departure. The system was secure. Valkyrie ships were retreating. The humans had done what no other species could. They had contained, not destroyed. They had protected, not punished. And they had reminded every witness that humans were more than fighters. They were a force of nature. Ethan Cole walked with Pierce on the bridge. "They will never forget this," he said quietly. "The Valkyrie, the Council, everyone watching, they will remember how humans act when all hope is lost." Pierce nodded. "That is the point. Fear is not only in what we can destroy, it is in what we choose not to destroy. That is why humans are feared." Captain Brooks moved among the Marines, preparing for departure. "Final checks. Civilians safe? Ship secured? All remaining threats neutralized?" "Yes, sir," replied Major Ross. "Good. Let's leave the system." "Our work here is done." The Atlas and Liberty Dawn moved together, leaving the Orician system. The human presence had been decisive, but measured. They had arrived when no other help could come, controlled the battle without unnecessary destruction, and left the Valkyrie fleet humbled. On Oris, the council watched as the humans departed. A wave of relief swept through the assembly. Lyra Van exhaled slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she leaned against the railing. Kale stood beside her, still tense, but with a small smile. Ethan Cole looked out at the departing ships. "They will return if we need them again," he said. "Humans act when there is no other choice, and they always act with purpose. That is why they are feared and respected." Hixia whispered almost to herself. "We summoned what we feared most, and yet they saved us." Threx nodded, his voice low.
Yes, terrifying, but they saved us.
As the stars of the system returned to their quiet shimmer, the outpost slowly began to breathe again. Supplies would arrive, repairs would start, and life would return to the streets and homes. The shadow of fear that had hung over Oris for 6 cycles finally began to lift. But even as peace returned, the council knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were intelligent. Humans were merciful, but dangerous. And humans were free. No one could control them. That freedom, that unpredictability, was what made them the most feared species in the galaxy. Ethan Cole turned to Lyra and Kale.
You summoned them in desperation, he said softly. You feared what might come.
But you also gave yourselves a chance to survive. And the humans? They acted, as humans always act, with intelligence, strategy, and purpose. Lyra nodded slowly.
We feared humans, and yet they saved us.
How can a species be so terrifying and yet so noble? Kale put a hand on her shoulder. Because they are humans. That is enough. In orbit above Orcs, the Atlas and Liberty Dawn moved together through space. The humans did not celebrate. They did not gloat. Their mission was complete. Their purpose fulfilled. They had arrived when all hope was lost, saved lives, contained the enemy, and reminded the galaxy of the power of intelligence, mercy, and strategy. Admiral Pierce looked out the viewport at the Orician system, now safe and calm. The mission is complete, he said softly. We have acted, and the galaxy has witnessed humans at their best. Let them remember that. The ships jumped to subspace, leaving Orcs behind. The outpost remained, intact and alive. The Velkari fleet, humiliated and contained, retreated to lick its wounds and reconsider its pride. The Council, exhausted but alive, understood the lesson humans had taught. Power alone was nothing. Mercy, intelligence, and courage could change everything. And somewhere in the minds of those who watched, a new understanding took root. Humans were not only a force to be feared, they were a species that could shape the course of history with a single, deliberate choice. Orcs had survived, and it had survived because of humans. The galaxy, silent as ever, had seen the arrival of something extraordinary, something terrifying. Something that would be remembered for generations. Humans, the humans, had come, acted, and left. The system was safe. The lesson was clear. The fear, respect, and awe humans inspired would linger long after their departure, and those who had summoned them would never forget the moment they called upon what they feared most, and were saved.